It started with a trembling hand, a dust cloth, and a portrait that refused to stay silent. In that quiet mansion, where chandeliers whispered of wealth and forgotten love, a young woman froze mid-motion, staring at the man in the frame who looked far too familiar, the man who had once promised her forever, the man who was supposed to be dead. If you believe in kindness and second chances, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Everyday Heroes. Outside, the rain had just stopped. Drops slid lazily down the window glass, catching the light like fading tears. The air smelled of lemon polish and old secrets. Inside, Emma adjusted her maid's uniform, crisp white collar, soft navy fabric, and drew a deep breath. It was her third day working at the Ashworth estate, and already she felt the weight of eyes on her that weren't there. She had taken this job quietly, without telling anyone in her small town. The money was good, the mansion respectable, but deep down, she was just a mother trying to pay her daughter's hospital bills. Every wipe of the cloth, every step in polished shoes, was a silent prayer for another week of survival. But what she saw next would shake the ground beneath her heart. As she reached the grand hallway, sunlight falling like gold through tall curtains, her gaze caught a painting on the far wall. A man in a black suit, eyes blue as morning frost, staring back at her from the past she'd tried to bury. Her breath hitched. Her hands went cold. She whispered without meaning to, "James?" But she wasn't supposed to speak his name here. Not in this house, not after all these years, because James was gone, the father of her little girl, the man who'd vanished one stormy night with promises of coming back soon. Emma stood frozen, staring at the portrait, trying to make sense of the impossible. The silence of the mansion thickened. Somewhere in the distance, a clock ticked, 1 second after another, as if time itself was holding its breath. Then came the soft sound of footsteps, heels clicking against marble. Mrs. Ashworth, the lady of the house, graceful and severe, with pearls resting perfectly around her neck, walked into the room. She stopped beside Emma, following her gaze toward the portrait. "Beautiful, isn't he?" she said softly. "My late son, Alexander." Emma's stomach twisted, the world tilted. Late son? Her mind screamed, no, that's James. The same jawline, the same scar near the eyebrow, even the same distant sadness in his eyes. But she swallowed her shock. She couldn't afford to lose this job. Not now. Not when her daughter Lily needed another surgery next month. So she nodded, pretending to admire the portrait, while her heart pounded like a storm trapped inside her ribs. But what Mrs. Ashworth said next changed everything. "He died 8 years ago," the woman continued, her voice trembling slightly. "A car accident. We never even found his body. 8 years ago, the same night James disappeared." Emma felt the floor sway beneath her. Was this real? Could it be that her James, Lily's father, had been Alexander Ashworth all along? That night, Emma couldn't sleep. The mansion was too quiet, the memories too loud. She sat by the small window in her servant's room, holding a worn photograph in her hands. James, smiling in sunlight, holding her close by the river where they'd promised each other forever. The next morning, she woke with swollen eyes and a shaking heart. But she had work to do. As she dusted shelves and straightened vases, her eyes kept finding their way to the portraits that lined the hallways, the Ashworths through generations. But every smile looked hollow now. Every painted face hid something. She told herself to stay quiet, to keep her head down, to finish the month and leave. But fate has a way of tearing open the very doors we try to keep closed. Later that afternoon, Mrs. Ashworth asked Emma to help clean her late husband's study, a room that had remained locked for years. The air inside was heavy, trapped with time and silence. Dust floated like ghosts in sunlight. Emma followed carefully, trying not to disturb anything sacred. But when she reached for a stack of books on the desk, something slipped, a letter, yellowed and sealed with an old family crest. It fell open just enough for her to see the first line, "Mother, if you're reading this, I'm sorry, I can't live this double life anymore." Emma's breath caught. She glanced up, but Mrs. Ashworth hadn't noticed. Her hands trembled as she tucked the letter back where it was. That night she cried silently into her pillow. Every piece of her heart wanted to believe James was alive, that there was a reason he disappeared. But every rational thought whispered no. Still, she couldn't ignore the resemblance, the dates, the letter. The truth was begging to be found. If this moment touched your heart, please like and share to spread kindness further. Days turned into weeks. Emma tried to focus on her work, but something inside her had shifted. She began to notice details. The way Mrs. Ashworth's gaze softened whenever she passed that portrait, the way she avoided questions about her son's final days. One evening, as twilight painted the mansion in shades of gold, Emma gathered the courage to ask gently, "Ma'am, may I ask, what kind of man was Alexander?" Mrs. Ashworth looked out the window for a long moment before speaking. "He was kind," she said quietly, "but he was lost. He wanted to escape this life, the money, the expectations. I suppose I pushed him too hard." Her voice cracked. "He met someone years ago. A girl, we never knew her name. After that he changed, happier for a while. Then he left." Emma's world blurred. A girl, happiness, leaving. She wanted to scream the truth, to tell her who that girl was, but fear kept her silent. Mrs. Ashworth sighed. "If only I could tell her I'm sorry. Whoever she was, I hope she forgave him." Little did she know that girl was standing right in front of her. The following Sunday, the mansion hosted a small memorial, the anniversary of Alexander's disappearance. Guests filled the halls with soft conversation and polished grief. Emma served tea with trembling hands, her gaze always drawn to that portrait, watching those painted eyes that once looked at her in real life. But as the evening waned, something unexpected happened. A man arrived late, tall, wearing a dark coat, carrying an envelope. He spoke quietly to Mrs. Ashworth, handed her the envelope, and left without another word. The entire room fell silent when she opened it. Inside was a faded photograph. Alexander standing on a pier, alive, dated only 3 years ago. Gasps filled the room. Mrs. Ashworth's hand flew to her mouth. "Impossible," she whispered. Emma stood rooted, her heart breaking open in slow motion, because she recognized the place in that photo. It was the same seaside town where she and Lily had once lived for a few months, waiting, hoping. That night, after everyone left, Emma found Mrs. Ashworth sitting alone in the study, tears running down her cheeks. On the desk lay the photo. "Ma'am," Emma began softly. The older woman looked up. "You've been crying too," she said quietly. "Why?" Emma's voice trembled. "Because the man in that picture, he isn't just your son, he's the father of my child." Silence. The world seemed to stop breathing. Mrs. Ashworth stared, eyes wide, lips parting in disbelief. "What did you say?" Emma's hands shook as she pulled out a small photograph from her apron. James, smiling, holding a baby girl. This was taken a year before he disappeared. The older woman took the photo with trembling fingers, tears clouding her vision. "My God," she whispered. "It's him. It's truly him." Time folded into itself. Two mothers bound by love for the same man, one by blood, one by memory. They sat together in silence, the truth heavy between them. Mrs. Ashworth finally spoke, voice breaking. "He called himself James?" Emma nodded. "He must have been trying to protect you," she murmured. "From this family, from me." She looked at Emma with eyes full of regret. "I thought I lost a son, but you lost so much more." Emma's tears fell freely now. "I never stopped waiting for him." Mrs. Ashworth reached across the table and took her hand. A gesture so human, so fragile, it broke something open inside both of them. "Tell me about her," the older woman said softly. "About my granddaughter." And just like that, the mansion that had been cold for years filled with the quiet warmth of a story. About a little girl named Lily who loved painting rainbows, who still kept her father's photo under her pillow. When Mrs. Ashworth saw Lily for the first time, a week later, standing shyly at the grand doorway in her faded dress, something inside her healed. She knelt down, tears falling freely, and whispered, "You have his eyes." That was the moment the past began to forgive itself. Days turned into new mornings. The mansion no longer felt haunted. Emma still wore her uniform, but now she did so with quiet dignity, not fear. Lily would come on weekends, painting by the window, filling the house with laughter it hadn't heard in years. Mrs. Ashworth, once cold and distant, began to smile again. She even set a new portrait on the mantel. Lily, painted in soft sunlight, holding a seashell. Sometimes, Emma would find herself standing before the old portrait of James or Alexander and whisper, "We're okay now. No grand miracles, no dramatic endings, just forgiveness, quiet, slow, and real." Comment below. What part of this story stayed with you the most? If this story touched your heart, please subscribe, like, and share to spread kindness. Outside, the morning light poured gently through the curtains. The rain had stopped for good. Emma smiled as she wiped the last bit of dust from the frame, her reflection overlapping with his. And in that silent moment, it felt like he was smiling back, not from the past, but from the peace that follows when hearts finally forgive. Sometimes, a few kind words are all it takes to change a life forever.